Well, good evening and welcome everybody to the Media Man, and we're here for another stream. As it goes, and I'm joined tonight by Joe. Welcome to the stream, Joe. First of all, it's great to have you. We're going to have Lee also joining us a little bit later on. We've got 9 people in so far, so a little bit quiet to start with, but I'm sure it will ramp up a little bit as we go on. Now, we're going to be talking a little bit about what's been happening at Forest, particularly, obviously, given that we are Forest fans. And we're going to be talking more specifically about the new signing, which is Neco Williams. And I don't want to spoil the slide that I had prepared because there's this one here. Oh, sorry, the wrong one. Neco Williams obviously signing for Forest today. Massive move, £17.5 million was the altogether fee. So technically the joint most expensive transfer in Forest history, alongside Taiwo Awoniyi, and also that includes add-ons as well, and a 15% sell-on fee. So lots going on in that deal. I think Liverpool, they've got a really good deal their end. I think they've made it a bit high our end, to be fair, to be honest with you. I think he's a great investment, but I think it's a little bit high our end. And considering there's a 15% transfer sell-on fee, it seems a lot to me, but I think it's all worth it in the end. Now, we've got Pee Wee Herman here. Hi, boys. Eve, hello, Jamie and Joe. I hope you're both okay. Hope you're okay, Eve. And hello, Ben. Guys, just comment if you can. It's great to have you all in the stream. Pardon me. So, what's a good way to start it? That sums up my day, doesn't it? Eating pizza all day. But Joe, first of all, welcome back. We had a good stream last time. Our stream so far has got 3.2k views, I think it is, altogether now. So, pretty pleased with that result. I think it's fair to say. We did really good. And obviously Lee's going to be joining a little bit later on. I think he's just somewhere at the moment. So should be around 8 o'clock. And then I believe Ez is going to be joining as well very soon. So hopefully no more singing from him. But he'll only be joining from, I think, about 7:30. Well, just after 20 to 8, until around 8 o'clock. So he won't be on for the full thing. But he is going to be making a little appearance and maybe getting in some singing time, as I say. Let's hope not, though. But first of all, Joe, massive signing, £17.5 million.
Yeah.
Top signing, most expensive signing, technically. How are you feeling about that? Are you feeling optimistic about Neco Williams, or how do you feel?
No, definitely. I'm really happy with it. I mean, I think you were quite right with what you said earlier, where Liverpool have kind of done as a bit of a they've kind of gotten away with a little bit, probably. I mean, if we tried to leave it a little bit later, it might have been a little bit lower. But I think overall, it's a signing that we all knew we needed, especially with how well Jed did for us last year. We knew we had to try and replicate something like that down the right-hand side to integrate with Brennan and try and open up some attacking options for us, especially in the higher league this year. So it's something we had to get done and over the line. And I think he's pretty much the perfect fit for us. So definitely overall very happy with it.
And the price tag, as we've both said, maybe Liverpool did push it up a little bit further than we'd liked, but it's clear to see that Forest had chased the lad since they offered 11 million with 5 million in add-ons, and then they rejected that. Then they wanted 15 straight out, and it wasn't, quite going as well as we wanted. So it looks like Forest are interested, and they really, really wanted him. And it seems they've gone to, I wouldn't say a great length, because I still think that Liverpool probably could have gone higher. And I'm sure that somewhere in the back of their minds, they were thinking, do we go higher with this? And I think probably Forest would have been pursuing it still.
I think if there would have been probably a bit more interest from other clubs, if Fulham was still chasing him down after having him on loan last season, then they probably could have pushed it up a little bit more if there was more of an interesting race for it. But I think as soon as we were linked with him, and his links with Brennan playing in the national squad, as well as his links with Cooper from being at Liverpool as part of their youth squad, he'll, I think as soon as we were linked with him, there was only really one place he was going to want to go. So I think we were then just going to lead the race pretty much throughout, unless someone really highballed it.
So its agent Brennan Johnson seems to have been at work. We all know that Neco Williams and Johnson were on holiday together. So understandable why, why they would be potentially coming to Forest in regard to Neco Williams, because obviously there's been a chat had. Like, let's be completely honest. You see all the memes of like Agent Pogba or Agent Johnson or Agent Lingard over time. You've seen it all, but this isn't actually a joke. Like, these guys are genuinely having words and actually speaking about the possibility of them coming to the clubs. And I really like that about football. But obviously, it's not just about what Brennan Johnson said, because obviously the scouts have done their work on him. Dane Murphy, the recruitment team, they've all done a lot of background work on him. So they know who this guy is. They've looked at the stats. And I want to say, Henshaw analysis is great, by the way. If you haven't already followed him on Twitter, he's got some really good in-depth statistics about players. But that just touches the surface of what these scouts and others are doing. They'll have watched hours and hours of replays, making sure to see if he's the right man for the job. And obviously they've said for 17 million, a lot of money, but we're going to have him. So, and now they do. And how good does he look in a Forest shirt? He looks brilliant in a Forest shirt, doesn't it? It just looks natural. I mean, he's accustomed to wearing a red shirt anyway, but not a Garibaldi red shirt, right?
I think Steve Cooper was even appreciating it in some of the pictures you might have seen on Twitter as well, where they were having a meet up during the photo session. Don't know if you saw that one today.
I did, and you just saw Steve like looking at him like, wow, I've just spent 17 million pounds on this. This is amazing. You best do well. That's what he's saying. You best do well. My job depends on it. So yeah, Neco Williams, as I say, massive signing. And he joins from Liverpool, and I've kind of updated this a little bit. You can see, so he's 121 appearances, 5 goals, 17 assists. Fee is £17.5 million with the add-ons included, and a 15% sell-on clause as well. So it's all in there. Liverpool have got a good deal for them. I think we've got a good deal because I think he's going to do well. But I think financially, I think there's been a little bit, as we said, a little bit of pushing by Liverpool. And I don't think really Forest were going to turn down the opportunity to have Neco Williams at the club. So we've got some people commenting in now. What's the deal with this Scarpa guy? Seen reports saying he's signing for us in December, then joining Olympiacos on loan if they're still in the Champions League. Yeah, I don't really know much about Scarpa, to be completely honest. I know there were some things being thrown around on like Twitter and stuff, but I'd not really put full focus into it. Joe, have you heard anything about this Scarpa guy?
Only what's been going around on Twitter pretty much today. I've seen it's been flying about quite a bit. I think it just seems to be another one of those that's going to get lost in the ether of, is he going to Forest and then going to Olympiacos, or the other way round? Or I think it's just getting a bit confusing, to be fair. I think there isn't really anything that's going to be settled on it. I don't think, even if he is going somewhere, it's not until January. So it's not really anything to be paying too much attention to at this moment in time.
Absolutely. He's not going to, if he's going to come in December, he wouldn't be. Or if he's not going to come this year, then I don't really think we have to worry about it, because let's be completely honest, we don't know where we're going to be next year when he potentially joins us. So we need to be thinking about this year. As great as it is to see, this promising young Brazilian midfielder could be coming to Forest in the summer of 2023. You think, well, by then, you don't know where we're going to be. Potentially, we're still in the Premier League. Potentially, we're not. And that's a realism that you have to face. So in terms of the Scarpa rumours, I think I would just leave it. Even if he was to be joining, as we've mentioned, it would not make any difference to us, for the first 6 months of the season, or potentially, the last 6 months of the season. So there's not really much in that I would say is that interesting. Would anyone in the chat take Harry Winks? Yeah, I think I would. Yeah. Is it whether it's a case of getting him because, as Vicky says, it looks like he's on his way to Leeds. But this is it, though, isn't it? There's a lot of links, a lot of rumours going round about who Forest are going to sign, and obviously it looks as though the defensive side of Forest has been almost complete, if not has been complete. But yeah, and I just want to say, Dan, you've tried to get me for the second time with this one. You're not going to get me. You can't get me with that one, because I know exactly what that means. And actually, I do watch some of the Legia Warsaw games, so you can't get me with that one. Well tried though. And Patch Adams, this is from Transfer Market, so you can have a look on there if you wish. So guys, right, having a look, and also don't forget he has played Liverpool and Fulham, so just keep that in mind. So this is what Ben says. Hopefully moves are afoot for new midfielders. I know we're keen on Morgan Gibbs-White. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Morgan Gibbs-White now. I saw this tweet earlier from John Percy. You can ignore the one on the right because we all know he's signed now. But Morgan Gibbs-White, it's John Percy from the Telegraph says, and he's one of the most reputable journalists that we follow as Forest fans. He says Wolves have rejected a bid in excess of £20 million from Everton for Morgan Gibbs-White. Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace are interested in signing the England under-21 international. Now, a few things that I just want to point out about Morgan Gibbs-White. As much as I like him and as much as I've rated him and still rate him, he's an under-21. Okay, so 30 million for an under-21. You know, not really an uncommon thing anymore, right? But still a lot of money for a younger person that hasn't got any Prem experience. That's the next part. No Prem experience, essentially. He's got a few appearances at Wolves, but obviously if he was that highly valued by Wolves, then I'm sure they'd keep him. But from what I can see now, Wolves have got financial issues at home. They've got a young talent there that isn't worth 30 million, but they're going to say he is. So, but that's just how it works, isn't it? I suppose. I mean, and I've been saying it this whole time. If we had a talent like that we didn't want, just like Middlesbrough do with Spence, you're going to want to get the highest buck for him. And Spurs are going to pay that. But are any of those teams going to pay 30 million? I mean, if Everton are bidding 20.5 million, it seems they've got the right idea roughly of what I would value him at. But it just seems a bit ridiculous. And we've got a patch here that says he's just turned 21. He has not got, you can have a look on Transfer Market, my friend. That's what it says on there. So I'll leave that with you for the time being. But Joe, I want to kind of get your thoughts on that. £30 million, as John Percy says here. That's a lot of money for a player with very limited Premier League experience. What's going on? And also, Tim, I just want to clear this up. I did make a bit of a mistake. It did say 8 on YouTube, and I may have said 8 on Twitter as well. I'm becoming used to saying 8 o'clock, so apologies for that. It's 7:30. I made that mistake. Oh, well. Joe, anyway, what's your thoughts on the whole Morgan Gibbs-White situation? Too expensive?
Way too expensive. I don't think, even with the links that we've got with him, with playing with Cooper at Swansea when he was on loan there, and knowing how well he'd develop under that kind of a system, I think Wolves would be aware of that, and that's why they're trying to hike the price up. But the fact that Everton have gone in at 20 and that's just been outright rejected, I think is ridiculous.
So Everton clearly want him then.
Yeah, I mean, Everton need a replacement for Richarlison, don't they, now that he's gone out to Spurs? So they'll be looking for someone to replace that, and I think he would be ideal probably for their system as well, especially as a young talent coming through and showing exactly what he was able to do when he was at Sheffield last season. But 30 million that's having any team that pays that, they're having their pants down if they pay that.
I was just going to say, because do you actually think that Gibbs-White would fit into that Everton system pretty well? Would he be getting first team every week? I suppose, you know, there's that idea of it. And I suppose if you're going to pay 30 million for a player, you're not going to want to sit him on the bench, are you?
No.
But obviously Wolves got some things going on their side, and they want to sell him for the most. And, you know, to an extent, although I believe it's wrong, they asked that much for him, just like Aston Villa asked 15 million for Davis, apparently. I think it's wrong that they asked for that, but equally, if they've got problems financially at the club, they're going to have to make as much as they can without sacrificing too much. Because, you know, although Wolves are I would say a good Premier League side with a lot of good players, you know, nobody's invincible. We saw that with, you know, Everton potentially. They could have gone down, and, you know, where they're one of the founding members of the Prem, aren't they? So, you know, it could have been disastrous for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a massive price tag. And people commenting here, Dan says the problem with Morgan Gibbs-White is a three-way race. Irrespective of where MGW wants to end up, having Everton and Crystal Palace interested in bidding means his price is going to be too much. So that begs me to ask the next question, and that's a really good point, Dan. Joe, do you think that Everton and Crystal Palace being interested is the sole reason for that £30 million valuation?
No, I think there's a lot of things that come into play. Like you said, they've got some financial issues that they need to be trying to sort out. So they're already going to be trying to make premium on him. He's pretty sure he's got a good few years on his contract still. So that's then not going to really force their hand too much. Realistically, he could fit into their starting lineup if they wanted to try and keep a hold of him, whether it's in the position that he'd want to play. I think he'd end up being more forward as like a secondary striker, as opposed to the attacking midfielder role that he was playing at Sheffield. So they are holding a good amount of cards, Wolves, in order to be able to keep a hold of him, so they can ask for that amount of money, knowing really that no one's going to go in for that. But they're not under any kind of pressure to get rid of him, because even if he's doesn't go this year, they're not going to be losing him on a free next year. So there's a couple of different factors that are playing into this valuation, but the fact that Everton and Palace are in for him is definitely a contributor.
So for me, he's either going to get first team at Wolves this season, or he's going to go. That is the 100% thing, because he's not a player that can sit on the bench. And I think, considering how well he's doing, he's done at Sheffield so recently, and considering, he's how he's done in the under-21s, etc. I think now it's not the right time to take your foot off the pedal. If you take your foot off the pedal, you could have a player that's going to lose 10 million in his valuation and, become. I don't have any players for reference here because I've lost them, but players that, for example, have looked great potential wise and then gone back to the club and just been rested and on the bench, and that was it. That's just forgotten about. But Joe here says 25 million for Max, really no Prem experience. Yeah, very, very limited. White is off the table for us at over 20 million. I think 25 million, maybe including add-ons, might have been a bit more acceptable, but even then, for me, that's still a big push. Depending on his wages, might be able to pull a bit back over a period of time. Leash here now, Tim says, Cal. Yeah, Tim, I'm sorry about that little mishap. That's my mistake. I'm sure we can get better from Europe and for a cheaper price. I know that Germany is probably the destination they're looking at. Dave Murphy has links to Germany, so I'm sure he's having some oversight into that.
Yeah, we're definitely doing a good job of raiding the Bundesliga at the moment, aren't we? So,
but we're not the only ones. There's like Leeds are going for it, and others are going for it. And I just want to say Brentford are about to sign Keane Lewis-Potter for 16 million. They've got a steal there. Yeah. Joe Worrell, do your homework, my son, because that guy is good, as he found out against Hull. That guy is good. So let's have a look. Everton can't go much more. FFP are watching them closely. Yeah, see, there's a lot of things to take into account. Stand-ups, away days, any spaces. If you want to jump on for 5 minutes, I'll put the link in the chat for you. Mesut Ozil, yeah, no, thank you. Wages would be absolutely ridiculous. He's only worth what a club is willing to pay. 30 mil, walk away. I like the little kind of poetry, kind of rhyming that you had there, because that was quite meaningful, I would say. Yeah, 30 million is way too much. Another midfielder too expensive. I mean, let's be honest. Midfielders were never going to be like cheap. You know what I mean? Nobody's gone into the transfer window and gone, we're going to get a good midfielder for 5 or 6 million. I'd say 10 million is probably the lowest you're going to pay for a semi-decent midfielder. And, Lewis O'Brien, he's really, really good. 10 million, it's a good price. But is he as good as Morgan Gibbs-White? I don't really think so, but I suppose you're paying 10 million, aren't you? So I think if you put someone good alongside him, that'd be really, really good. And Stanhope's away, he says, pick Ramsey up and get his wages paid and the money we save on White. Yeah, potentially. But I'm going to ask you, Joe, actually, because I want to know what you think about this. Do you think that Steve Cooper obviously got a bit more of a youth focus? Do you think that Aaron Ramsey would fit in that midfield that he's building? In that team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at the transfers that we've made so far, all 6 of them are pretty much in that age range bracket where they've got a lot of years left in them and they know they're going to do a lot of development work under Cooper. But I still think there's definitely room for 1 or 2 players who are maybe on their way out. They've got a couple of years left in them, but they've got bags of experience that they can then offload to all of these young players that we're signing on. So I definitely think there's room, and probably if you were going to do it, you'd want to put them in more of a central midfielder or attacking midfielder role where they don't have to be running up and down the pitch and bombing it. They can control their area of the pitch and just distribute the ball with the talent that they've got. So I think there's definitely room for someone with the likes of Aaron Ramsey to play in that position.
So Aaron Ramsey's a good option. I think, is he free agent now? I don't know if he is a free agent. He is a free agent. So he's a good option. He's free. Potentially, whatever transfer fee they would have looked for, you're going to pay that back in his wages, really, aren't you? So over time. So a good option, and he's got experience, obviously, Arsenal, Juventus, Rangers. So good teams around some of the biggest leagues in the world. And played at Forest before, so he's got some love for the club somewhere. So Ben, to answer your question, West Ham paid £18 million for Bowen, and he's now got a £100 million price tag over his head. So you've almost times his value by 5 there. So a great investment by West Ham, and their scouts obviously saw something in him, and it has paid off. So good evening, Frederick. I hope you're doing well over in Sweden. No team will pay that for Morgan Gibbs-White, says Eamon. Yeah, I think it'll be very tough to see any team paying that. But Joe, do you think that there is a chance that Crystal Palace and Everton might cough up that money? And if so, who out of the two do you think is most likely to?
Everton, 100%. I think Palace will have an interest in them, but I think they've got enough talent that's up and around that position already where they were probably looking at it as an investment over time, probably with some of the likes of their strikers maybe looking to be on the way out or looking for a new challenge. I don't think they're looking at him at the moment to come in and be their marquee signing. So I think the fact that they've said 30 million, I think that's going to turn Palace away immediately.
So I mean, obviously, Crystal Palace have got a good academy. They bring through a lot of young stars, and they also buy players that seem to have done very well. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka, they got 50 million for him, and it just hasn't gone right at United. So they've got the good end of the stick really with that one, and they seem to have replaced him well. So so you think Everton would pursue that? But realistically, do you think Everton will do it though? Like, even if they did have the choice and it was just them in the race, do you think they would actually pay that money?
Not if they've put in a bid for 20 million thinking that was an acceptable offer. I mean, I think that is probably his true valuation. And now all of a sudden it's hyped up by an extra 50% on what that valuation was. It's gone from 20 to 30, which is ridiculous. I think no team's going to look at that. Maybe they're just saying that as a high ball offer to see if there is any interest, but then it's going to end up coming very far down over time. I have no idea.
So it's anything can really happen. Crystal Palace and Everton, they're both wanting Morgan Gibbs-White services. It looks like Wolves not necessarily kind of reluctant to let him go. I think they do want to see him go potentially, but I think they want a really, really good bit of money for him. So, and just a reminder to people in the comments, please don't make any silly comments about guests or, people on the panel. It just don't do it. There's no reasoning for it, but because there's no face on your YouTube channel account. So I'm sure you wouldn't like people to be saying things as well. But John Rondo, I don't know what that was. Jamie, you're way ahead of match day. Well, no, listen, we're all the same. We're all Forest channels. We all love football, and that's just how it is for me. So subscribe to all of us. We're a family. So, and it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe as well. I've seen a few of you have subscribed. But no, it's okay. It's just, just because, we've seen too much of it recently. Some really nasty things said. So
it doesn't bother me too much. Yeah,
it doesn't bother you too much. Okay, he's okay with it. So I'm not going to say carry on. Go on, carry on then. No, but seriously, guys, if you can subscribe to me and Liam Stanhope, who is joining us now, we're going to ask you a question in a minute. So if you can subscribe to this guy, that'd be great. And, Max Goodwin as well. And maybe when Ez sets up a singing account, you can subscribe to that as well. I know that's in the works somewhere. So, Liam,
that man can talk. I'm telling you,
he can talk. He can talk, but he has good talk, and he speaks sense.
Lad.
He speaks sense. Now you're looking like you've got a Snapchat filter on you today. You're looking very shiny. I must say, Liam.
I am burnt to a crisp.
He's burnt to a crisp. Look at that. That's absolutely brilliant. So you've been out in the sun, obviously, today. And it looks like there's a lot of windows around you. So it looks like you're in a greenhouse almost.
Yeah, I'm in my office. It's very hot as well. So
he's in his office. Right. So I want to ask you this question then. How are you feeling? Neco Williams obviously signed 17.5 million, a little bit more than we thought. But, a good player. How are you thinking? How are you feeling about that?
He's international. I mean, it's a step in the right direction, isn't it? We're bringing international players in now that they've they've proven enough at their club level to be an international player, which speaks volumes, doesn't it?
So what about that? What about that valuation? It's a little bit more than we thought. Are you still content with it? Do you just think let's just get the deal done and 17.5 million is 17.5 million?
I mean, the backroom staff have obviously done their research on him. For the club's not just throwing money at players. So there must be something behind that. I mean, he performed for Fulham, didn't he? So, yeah, I'm happy with it.
He's happy with it. I'm good because I'm glad that you are, because obviously it's too late to say you're not now. Yeah, you can't go to calling Steve Cooper like, oh, God, Steve,
well,
I've got to tell
he's
you,
watching this. So, Cooper, you're doing well, mate.
Yeah, you're doing well. I was going to say, don't be calling him like, you got the wrong Williams. No, not the wrong one. Oh, you meant the Brazilian lad from Rio de Janeiro. Oh, yeah, him. Oh, God, we got it wrong, didn't we? No, but seriously, this guy is looking really, really good. And I'm sure that he's going to play really, really well down the right. Now, we've kind of covered and said, over in the last couple of streams that he's a bit more well-rounded than Jed Spence. And that's not to slate Jed Spence either, because we see too much of it now. People just going and saying, oh, Jed Spence, he's rubbish. I don't like Jed Spence and all this. It's like, for one, London's his home. Two, there's more finance involved. He's going to get bigger wages and probably a decent loyalty bonus. And number three, like, you got the opportunity to play in Champions League football. He was one of the main reasons we got promoted that season. So no bitterness my end. I'm just thankful that he was there. But equally, I think Neco Williams is the better option. He's more well-rounded. He's got better defensive qualities and good attacking qualities. So for me, never easy to see a player like Spence go. And John, I know what you're saying about the attitude thing, but I didn't see any issues with his attitude at Forest. I always thought he gave his all. There was some times where his head was down a little bit. And I don't think he quite seemed himself at times, if you know what I mean. But I don't think there was really any attitude problems at Forest. Liam, what do you think about that?
I can remember a lot of stroppiness about him, and if you could go back and watch some of the games, when Joe Worrell goes to take a throw in, every time Joe Worrell went to take a throw in last year, it was like Spence was spitting his dummy out about it if Joe Worrell took a throw in too quick, or like the flailing of the arms like Ronaldo does. And that's all I can say that I ever saw. But I'd say at the start of the season, when he first come, I'd have said Spence held the ball too long and he didn't whip it into the box quick enough. But he improved through the season, and obviously, like you said, he was one of our best players. So football-wise, I think that's all we can comment on, to be honest.
Well, absolutely. We don't know what goes on off the pitch, obviously. And Joe, I want to ask you, I mean, this is speaking hypothetically, because as I say, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But Joe, do you think that given more time at Forest, his attitude potentially could have been unearthed, or the attitude problems that the likes of Neil Warnock has mentioned? Do you think any problems would have arisen should he have stayed at Forest this season?
I mean, it is purely hypothetical, and I think it's hard to kind of get an idea as to what that would have been like. I think he would have known that if he would have come to us, he would have been one of our marquee signings that we'd make. He'd be probably asking for a lot more money as part of his contract deal to come to us. And I think, given that it's going to be a much harder league where we're not going to be able to, he's not going to have as much freedom on the ball just to be able to get the ball and run down the wing at the much higher echelon of players that he was going to be playing against. I think then he might be getting a bit more frustrated, and then maybe in that frustration, you might see more of his previous side come out like he would as a Middlesbrough. But I think under the tuition of Cooper and the rest of the backroom staff, I think he wouldn't have been the most egotistical player that you see, like running up and down the pitch like you've seen from other players. But maybe he would have a bit more of an attitude about him, and maybe it would end up rubbing off and rubbing against some other players and staff the wrong way. But I don't think it's as bad as everybody else is making out.
So maybe a bit of an overstatement from some people moaning about his attitude, perhaps. And also you've got all the big names around in that Forest locker room now. I mean, you know, even some of the Forest lads that haven't cost 17, you know, anywhere from 12 to 17 million over the last couple of weeks. These are big players that are, you know, in need by clubs in the Prem. Like, look at Brennan Johnson. That guy, you know, he's got loads of interest from clubs in the Prem and elsewhere. So for me, really, I think it's important that we kind of go, you know, if there's one main person with ego in a group, I think things are going to go wrong. But I think at Forest, it's not a case of many people having egos. It's just many people having big names within their respective club. You know, you've got Scott McKenna, you've got Brennan Johnson, you've got Joe Worrell. These are all players that clubs do want. But I don't think really that Steve Cooper's the kind of manager that would allow any problems to arise, you know, from that. So he creates, you know, he cultivates a good backroom atmosphere, and nothing's gone wrong really yet, has it? So except for that Cardiff game, I'm still sulking from that, to be honest. That hurt a little bit, and the Middlesbrough game, that hurt. But I do want to talk a little bit about form. Now, it was kind of weird to think that in December, when I started watching Forest full time, every game pretty much, that we would be, you know, having good form for so long. Did you think at some point that we would actually be able to keep that up for much longer? Or was there like an element of you that was like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be carrying this on for much longer? You know, the proper old Forest instincts kicked in, you know, from the last 10 or so managers. Liam, how did you feel about that?
For like a couple of games to mention, it wasn't 100% consistent anyway. So you've got Cardiff away, appalling game to watch. It was terrible. Preston away, another game that wasn't great. I can't speak about home form because we was pretty consistent. I'd say the only game where we deserved to win, where we didn't, was the Samba sending off against Stoke. But in that, we were winning when we wasn't playing great, so we robbed a point from that game. So
that was one of the worst home performances I've seen under Cooper, and I think it would be the worst because I don't really think there's been actually any proper bad games at the home, you know, at the City Ground. To be honest,
the worst game I watched last season, we won 3-0, was against Barnsley. It was a Sunday League game. It was poor.
That was boring. Yeah, that was really boring. Yeah,
So.
That was super boring. I do remember that night. It was.
We watching. We could have scored 9 goals in that game, and it would have been like, yeah, that's what we deserved.
It wasn't worth the taxi fare. I wasn't pleased that night when I came home. Mum was like, "Oh, how did the game go, Jay?" And I'm like, "Well, we won 3-0." And she was like, "Oh, wicked! Must have been a great game." And I was like, "No, we should have won about 35-0." It was absolutely rubbish.
I've never been to a game where we've won 3-0 and it's a comfortable win, and I'm going home like thinking, what have I just watched?
Thinking it was absolutely crap. You know, but this is the thing, though. You do have games like that, and there's games where, and I think in football often, you'd like your team will lower its standards to the standard of the worst team at times. My Saturday League team 100% does that. I'll do it when I play football. It's just something that happens, and I don't know what it is. It must be a mentality thing at times because people kind of lay back and think it's an easier team, so it can just play easier, if you like. But
that's the one thing I loved listening to Cooper on Radio Nottingham after the games. Every game. So that one in particular. What other games? I think West Brom as well. Where he openly come out after we'd battered the team, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not really too happy. We could have scored more," and I loved that about him.
Yeah.
Like we just beat a team. I think it was against Swansea as well. He said it should have been 8. Like it should have been 8 or 9. Where he wasn't happy with the amount of goals we'd scored. Well, not happy, obviously, but
equally, you know, it's a disappointment by the fact that you're better than that. You know what I mean? You're better than that, and he believes in his team to the max, and he knows what his team can achieve. So if he's not seeing them achieve to that level, but he's seeing it in other games, he's obviously going to be disappointed. And I think Colin Frey does a really good job of interviewing Steve Cooper because it's just like this, isn't it? It's just like this. It's like me and you talking, you know, like they get on so well. And it's nice to see that Cooper sees him almost as a friend as well. Whereas other managers will just see it as just another journalist kind of thing. So, yeah, it's one of them, and I really do enjoy listening to them after the game. I usually listen to them on the way home, to be fair. But if any of you haven't seen it, by the way, Jim White versus Colin Frey, that interview is absolutely unreal. It was Colin Frey interviewing Cooper after the Wembley match, and Jim White tries to step in, and Colin Frey just fully puts him down. It's really funny. I'll try and get an audio of it tomorrow for the next stream. So let's have a look. Remember, Cooper didn't sign Spence. Yeah. Was it Houghton that signed Spence? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, he come at the start of the season, didn't he?
I don't want to give Houghton any credit at all, but all right, fair enough, Chris. But you couldn't use him, so you didn't make him look any good.
In them 7 games, with the games I was on about, where Spence didn't cross early enough.
Yeah.
Where he held onto the ball too long. Like, we lost them first 7 up until the Derby draw. We wasn't outclassed. We lost the games. Well, I think was it the Fulham one was the only. We didn't concede more than 2 in any of them games. But it was at the other end really where we struggled.
Never looked like
we weren't scoring.
So. But we held a good fortress at the City Ground. I think it's fair to say there was a lot of games where I haven't commentated at a game where we've lost. So for me, that's good enough. And I've been to most home games this season.
That's from December. Doing Newcastle then.
Yeah, so I'm doing Newcastle, and that's the one where I'm a little bit nervous. I watched the Liverpool game, but I wasn't commentating. So I did tell the station, I was like, guys, if you wanted them to win, you should have just let me go. And they were like, no, I've already got some on there. So I thought, okay then. And look what happened. Zinkernagel just didn't take the opportunity, did he? Still crying, don't worry. So this is what NFFC Player Watch says. Hennessy will join when they sign a goalie. So that'll be interesting. Hennessy to Forest. Second choice keeper, obviously. Horvath's gone to Luton, hasn't he? So how are you guys feeling about that? Joe, I'm going to start with you. How are you feeling about Hennessy potentially coming to Forest?
Well, I think we definitely need a second goalkeeper to fill in the gap that's been left by Samba, as well as Horvath going on loan. So a solid signing, I'd say. Obviously, with Burnley going down, they're going to end up getting picked off. So I think as a second string goalkeeper to bring in just in case something does happen, touch wood it doesn't, to Dean Henderson throughout the season, then I think it's probably the right kind of signing to be making as a backup goalkeeper to be looking at, just to kind of cover off any unfortunate eventualities that happen throughout the year.
What are your thoughts on that, Liam?
Yeah, it's just another strength in depth signing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's a bit of a hopefully it won't even be needed and Henderson's fit for the whole season, but you've always got to be prepared and stuff happens, and maybe one time a challenge is done wrong. It's good to always have that backup.
And you've got a player that's got a bucket load of experience ready to use as well at any time. And I can imagine he's probably content with being a number 2, given his time and his age and stuff. And he's still getting international caps. So I'm sure he's probably not fussed really too much. Nick says Burnley are going after Muric. Oh dear. That'll be Burnley going down again then. I did not rate Muric at all. That was really, I can't remember the game where it was one of his first games. I can't remember what game it was now, but it was an absolute shocker. I remember me, my dad and my brother just sitting there thinking, what did Man City say about him? This can't be Pep Guardiola. Was it Coventry? How many years ago was it? 18? 17?
But I can remember seeing him at Nottingham Station, because he's massive, man. He's huge. And this was when he was Forest number 1. I think it must have been the week before the first game. And then he had a howler, didn't he? It looked like he couldn't jump. No, it was West Brom.
Is that who it was? West Brom? It was, wasn't it? Because that was when Slaven Bilic was in charge.
Of his mistakes.
That was the first game of the season. Slaven Bilic was in charge. Yeah, I remember that now. And I remember just sitting there with my dad and my brother like, do you want to leave now? I know it's only been 20 minutes, but that's shocking. I've come here to see how good this keeper is. Hopefully, we don't have to use him, but we did that day, and he
Man
was
City's
shocking.
second choice was what was being thrown about.
Yeah, what a great way to sell a player from Man City there. Look at their marketing strategy. It's brilliant. Yeah, that didn't go too well. Although I'm hoping that Henderson does do well. I'm looking forward to seeing him play in pre-season. When is the next pre-season game? Is it tomorrow?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and it's Burton, isn't it?
Burton, yeah.
Oh, what time's that on? Do any of you know what time is that on?
7:30, I think.
7:30. Oh, stream-wise tomorrow then, guys. We'll have to wait and see because I'm quite interested in watching that game if I can, as long as it's not like 25 quid or something daft.
Well, there was going to do 2 60-minute games, weren't there?
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening now, isn't it?
No, it's gone to
90 Have they changed that completely now? Oh, so why are they going to do 2 60 minutes then? What was all that about?
I'm guessing trying out 2 teams again.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, I'm just interested in just conventional football, to be honest with you, to be fair. Be a bit weird
while
to
I'm
watch
on
the radio.
I want to get easy to Saturday's game. No, here he is.
Don't embarrass me like that, mate. How you doing, guys? You all right?
All good, thank you.
All good, mate. I hope you're doing well. I know you've been singing in the shower, so that's why you're a little bit late to join in the stream.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't singing; it was a noise, but it wasn't singing, mate. But yeah.
Yeah. That's what they all say. This is what they all say. So, sorry, Liam, what were you saying? I didn't mean to interrupt you there, mate.
Anyone that's not going on Saturday to use their membership for a spare ticket for Saturday. That's what we're after. So
this is for Ez, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So, guys, if you've got a membership that Ez can use, that would be great. Now, Ez hasn't been able to attend a game. I know he's really, really wanted to, but he hasn't been able to, unfortunately, over the last couple of years. So, if you can give him a helping hand, then that would be great. Because I know that there'll be some of you that can't go and watch the game. And if you can't go and watch it, then someone else definitely can. So, it'd be great if you can just give him a helping hand and get him to go and watch the game. So, I'm going to kick off a question for you, Ez, in a moment. And no, it is not about your thoughts on X Factor coming back. It's Jay. What do you think the budget? I tried it, didn't I? What do you think the budget will be? 110 million, but if we sign Gibbs-White and O'Brien, they have 10 million for a backup. I think the budget, I would say, I think we're going to spend 110 million this summer. That's the number that I've pinpointed based off what we're spending now. Because I still think you're going to need the 2 midfielders, maybe a striker. And then obviously you're going to need that backup keeper, which I can't imagine will cost a lot. But as Andrew Lever says, Gibbs-White wants a 22 million, wants to move to Forest, but it'll cost even more than 22 mil, 30 million now, as John Percy has rightly said in this tweet. So, as obviously you've just joined the stream, so you've missed out on all the Morgan Gibbs-White chat because you thought singing was more important. But what are your thoughts? He loves singing. Right. Well, what are your thoughts on the £30 million valuation of Morgan Gibbs-White?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we are pushing it, aren't they? I think I'm going to be controversial, mate, because he's the one player I really, really want, and I think he might be someone that Cooper really, really wants as well. So I'm happy to go with whatever the club decide. If they decide that's the right amount to go for, and they want to make that offer in excess of the 25 million we thought was going to be the ceiling initially, then who am I to argue, basically? I want him. I want him really badly. I commented on somebody's tweet earlier. There's 3 players, if I could get them in, I'd take them, and that would be Morgan Gibbs-White, Sander Berg, and Keenan Davis. If we can get those 3 players in, I think that'd be our business done for summer, and I'd be more than happy with that. I don't know what some of the other guys think. There's other nuances within that. You could probably look. I really do like Joel Pirot from Swansea as well. He looks really classy. If you remember his goal against us, it was such a sweet strike, even though it took a deflection. But he's a top player, and he just slightly different from the mold of Awoniyi and Davis, but probably more similar to Surridge. But he's a really, really good player, and he's young as well. I think he's only 21, 22 years old. That age range, I think that I'd be looking for the third player. it's a shame that Graben's not going to be there, but would Graben have really got that much time on the pitch, realistically? So I'd rather that next. If I do think we need another striker and 2 more midfielders, so I'm agreeing with you on that point of view. But who we go for? I would go for Keenan Davis. I would love him back. I just keep looking back over clips of him and some of the things he did, but I haven't seen a player do in a Forest in a championship level for a long time. And looking,
but even then, I do want to ask the question though, because obviously, I mean, people are commenting, and Nick says Forest will not pay that stupid prices. 30 million is a lot of money, and obviously, I think Werder Bremen have bid 20 million for Berger, or 18 million, I think, and that got rejected. So they're going to be wanting over 20 million for Berger as well. So if you were to get Berger and Morgan Gibbs-White, you've already spent potentially 60 million there. And if it's going off the budget that I've said of 110 million, even if it's 120, you've got 10 million left for a striker and a keeper, which I still think is fairly realistic, but you're paying 60 million for Gibbs-White and Berger, who are 2 players that are completely unexperienced in the Premier League. So, and Gabriel here, he's got a Sheffield United fan at work that said that Sander Berger has been really inconsistent for them. So you're paying potentially up to 25 million for him, and Sheffield United fans think he's inconsistent. And I want to ask Liam now, actually, to what extent do you think we can chase players like that? Because although, as much as I agree with Ez's sentiment that I want Morgan Gibbs-White as well, to what extent do we actually say, okay, we really want you, but this is all we're going to pay. We can't go any more than that.
I just look at the transfer market. I mean, for that 30 million, you could probably bring Garner back and have Davis in that one sum of 30 million. If I'd look at how many players could you get in for 30 million that are proven at Forest? They know the club. I mean, why Wolves are putting this much of a high price tag on his head when they wanted him out on loan last season?
Yeah.
And he hadn't set the championship alight, has he?
Yeah, this is it though, isn't it? It's like you're taking a £60 million gamble on 2 players, and even on one player, you're taking a £30 million gamble with the player that has basically no Premier League experience. And remember, we're not an established team in the Prem. Like we can't be affording to pay 60 million for 2 players that potentially could do well and potentially couldn't. We're a team that needs to stay in the Premier League for financial reasons, and also for the fact that who wouldn't want to stay in the Premier League? So, Joe, do you think that paying £30 million for Morgan Gibbs-White and potentially 25 for Sander Berger is just too much of a risk, given that even Sheffield United fans think that the likes of Berger has been inconsistent at times?
If Cooper and Dane turn around and say, yeah, we're willing to pay that money, we really want them, I'll have full faith in them making that decision and I'll back them. But I think we're in a position where we need to be looking at depth of a lot more than individual talent. I think we've done it the right way throughout the back line, where we've invested a lot in players who can play in different positions purely, I think, on that role of looking at depth. I'd rather be getting in players, like Liam said there, that are Forest proven. They know the club, they know the team, they know the backroom staff. So get Davis back in, pay maybe a bit of a premium on getting Garner back in, bring him back into the midfield, and then start looking at some of the Huddersfield links that we've been made at with O'Brien, look at bringing him in. I'd rather be making those signings and making more of them to build up the depth, especially with having 5 subs available this season, where we know some of the bigger teams, because they've got such a big squad depth and players that they've managed to keep on hold from their academy, they're just going to run us ragged over 90 minutes if we're splashing out the cash on 2 big players who then have to come off because they've just got nothing left in the tank, and then who have we got to bring on to fill that role?
Sorry about that. I've just muted Liam dead quick. We've got so good options. And I think Aaron Ramsey and I was thinking about it then and it's a really good comment by Martz here who says bring in Toffin O'Brien, Ramsey, Larson, free transfers there. Larson, I think, could be good because he's nobody that's absolutely ridiculously good in terms of the sorry, I'll unmute you there, Liam. In terms of the player that they are, because he's not world class or anything like that. But he's got a fairly good record. He's reputable. He's played in some good teams. He's played at Spartak, and obviously his dad's the legend at Celtic. So, there's a fair bit about him, and on a free as well, I think it might be worth a punt really. Ramsey as well, I think he could play well, good with Morgan Gibbs-White, and I think if it came down to it, I want to ask the question. I'm going to ask you, Ez, now. If we got Morgan Gibbs-White for 30 million. But another midfielder on a free, would you be then a little bit happier to pay 30 million for Morgan Gibbs-White? Or, is it just the fact that you've got to have another midfielder for cost that is making you think that 30 million might be too much? And I know you want him for 30 million, but you're going to want lower, aren't you?
Yeah, ideally. And it might be the case that he will go for a lot less than that. I think Wolves are certainly chancing their arm, and they're right to, because there's genuine interest in only one. So what does that show about his potential? We can sit here and have our own valuations on players. So like Liam said, 30 million for you could get Garner and Davison. I wouldn't pay that much of them to. I wouldn't pay more than 15 million for a pair of them, to be honest. Maybe 7 million, 8 million each. So everyone's got a different valuation, and it's great that we can speculate, we can talk about it. But I know that the guys behind the scenes, they know exactly what their budget is. They know how far they can go, and it might be a case. Look, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Fulham spent 100 million, and went straight back down. So 100 million didn't get them a good enough squad. Okay, maybe they signed the wrong players, but it's going to take. I said I agree with you. I think it'll be at least over 100 million that we'd spend. And you can't see, even though we won't be held to ransom, you can't see Marinakis not backing Cooper 100%. If he wants a player, he'll get him that player. So yeah, we can speculate about it. We can speculate about how much it's going to cost and what the add-ons might be and this, that, and the other, but and what our budget might be. But to be honest, we don't know. We are just speculating. But if it wasn't a case that I'm looking long term, because I don't think he's a player that's going to get any worse, and I might seem like a cheerleader at the moment, but Gibbs-White, for me, he's a player that can step into that Premier League and he can hit the ground running. If we believe that about Brennan Johnson, because we do all believe that about Brennan Johnson, I believe that about Morgan Gibbs-White as well. I think the step up to the Premier League isn't going to be an issue for him, So we're relying on our players to be able to do it. And I think Gibbs, guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think his stats were better than Johnson's, weren't they, last season? So he's not, and he can play all across that front three. He's not a one position player. So I would go for him, and I would spend the money that's necessary to get him in. I don't think anybody will be paying 30 million for him. I just think that is what they're trying to push for. And I think we'll see. It might be one that really drags on to the last days of a transfer window on that one. But there are other players available, and there's other players that probably aren't even on our radar as supporters, but they're certainly on the radar of a recruitment team. So it'll be interesting anyway, but it's great to debate about it because we all got different opinions, and that doesn't make anyone right or wrong for having a different opinion. And it's nice to see that everybody wants. We want the best for our club, don't we? We want the best players, and I think if we look at the business that we've done so far, you'd think it'd be almost a half measure not to complete what we've done so far. We haven't spent small money. We've got some really great deals so far. But you got to look at the type of squad he's trying to develop, and youth is going to be essential for that. I think he's looking for people in that age range. I think they'll all play well together. I just see him slotting in. I'm sorry, I keep going on about Gibbs-White, but I just see him slotting into that with those players. You got Neco Williams now. You've got Brennan Johnson. You got all these players. He's a youngster as well. He's not that old. They're all are similar age ranges, and I just think they get on really well on and off the pitch, and I think it'd be amazing to link them all up. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. But it's the whole point is that we have got different opinions, and that's the whole point of this.
Absolutely. And Joe says, and as you know, I don't know how you feel about this. Joe says that £27 million, take it or leave it. I think obviously a push, but for some reason, I mean, I think if we were to get a midfielder that's, quite good, like the Aaron Ramseys and others of the world, then I think I would actually be more inclined to pay something like that. But even then, it's still a massive, massive gamble. So and I just want to say we've got a bit of breaking news in for you now. We always do. I feel like Sky Sports Transfer Centre at this point now. Now the Nottingham Post, who I'm going to reserve, I'm kind of 50-50 on them. It's clear to see why the likes of Paul Taylor left, because I know that I think that where he works now at the Athletic is a much more reputable source, really. But according to the Nottingham Post, Huddersfield Town will not stand in the way of Harry Toffolo and Lewis O'Brien if Forest come calling this summer. So, I mean, a bit of a nonsense really of an article that, but it's looking like Huddersfield aren't going to get in the way of them two leaving. So potentially a bit of a transfer boost for Nottingham Forest, and it's known that both of them will cost around 12.5 million. So interesting news, and I'll ask you guys your thoughts on that in just a moment. But we've got some questions coming in. Liam and Joe just look bored. No, don't worry. They're going to get the questions in a second. It's okay. Love Gibbs-White and Davis. No money high, but it's Premier League money now. Conor Gallagher, that could be one as well. And he's got a bundle of Prem experience, really. So, Joe, I want to kick this off with you. What are your thoughts on Conor Gallagher? People throwing the rumour around a little bit. I don't think there's anything concrete in regards to actual transfer bid or anything, but Forest fans would like to see him come to the club. I would pick him over Morgan Gibbs-White because of the fact he's got more Premier League experience, but they both have different qualities. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think he's definitely someone that Forest fans would like to see in, and he seems to fit the mould of all the other players that we seem to be bringing in at the moment. I think he's going to be able to integrate into the team. He's obviously going to learn a lot from playing under Cooper, just like we pretty much expect any player that comes to us now. We almost expect to be able to turn them into a player that's significantly better than they were when they joined. 30 million, I think you'd then be at that point again where do we want to be paying the big money for some of these players, or do we want to be looking more at poaching off of championship teams where they've done really well for those teams, and be trying to get more of a package deal to get some more players in to build a depth? I think that's just where you're then going to have some people that sit on one side of the fence and some people on the other.
So, yeah, he's a good player. And obviously, I think that Chelsea would want a good amount for him as well, because they know he's got potential. Whether he fits in that Chelsea team at the moment, I don't know. So, no, I think I said Paul Taylor earlier, Ben, with the Athletic, and I think it's John Percy with the Telegraph, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken, I think it is, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it is. Let me have a look on this tweet. It does say it here. Yeah, John Percy's Telegraph. So. So let's have a look at some of these comments, and I'm going to come to you next, Liam. So Stefan says here he would avoid free transfers. The only real reason I can think of why you would avoid a free transfer is a lot of the time there's a big amount of wages wanted by some players. So, Liam, what are your thoughts on free transfers? There's a lot of free agents around at the moment. Pogba's obviously off the market, so I know you've been crying to yourself. But, how are you feeling about free transfers?
If we were to bring Ramsey in on a free, it'd be quality. I mean, with him as well, it would be wages wise. It would stop it. It depends why the club's let him go, I suppose. If it is to do with wages, I don't think Forest need to be having people on the payroll with a big wage amount right now. But it depends on the player. So Ramsey brings experience. He played in Europe last year. He's played for Juventus, Arsenal. Who wouldn't want that in the dressing room?
and obviously he's played for the mighty Nottingham Forest just beforehand. So, you know, I think Juventus, when they were looking at getting him, they were thinking he's played at Nottingham Forest. You know, he's probably played on some rubbish manager, but you know, he's coming to Juventus. So, yeah, I like the idea of Aaron Ramsey coming in. If we can get him on a free, and as you say, you know, wages obviously big factor in it. I think that could be something good there. And Liam, I want just to stay with me a minute. Mark says obviously Aribo has gone to Southampton. Thoughts on that? I mean, I think it was a £10 million release clause. Or I think it was 6 rising to 10. Good signing by Southampton. What are your thoughts on that?
Was that to me? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was to you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good signing. I mean, I haven't really read into what other people are doing, to be fair. I've looked into Liverpool and what they've been doing and the big teams. But other than
they're our rivals, though, Liam. They're our arch rivals. Why aren't you? I thought, come on. We're not less
slacking.
Anymore. You are slacking. I thought you were looking into Southampton, you know. I can't believe...
I mean, I looked loaded in 3 days and I promised everyone I was doing it daily. So
do you want to give a statement to the people? I think you should give a statement to the people.
Southampton are coming for you.
Is that what he said now? Southampton are coming for you. I have a feeling that's going to be used in a reel against me now. I just want to say Liam's opinions are nothing to do with me unless they're based on Forest and Morgan Gibbs-White's valuation. So cheers.
Jay told me to say it as well.
What? No, I did not. Okay. I'm not giving you the £20 now. It's done. So Joe says, I love this channel. Come on, you Reds. Guys, if you do love this channel, hit the subscribe button, because if I'm being completely honest with you, we're not far off a pretty big milestone of 700 subscribers. So at the moment, as it stands, as I'm checking right now, I'm opening the YouTube app and I go to the profile and it says we've got 657 subscribers. We've only done 26 videos. So the 4,000 watch hours that you need, basically, to get monetized, etc., and to go further with your channel, we've nearly passed it, very close. But subscriber wise, we're not quite there yet, guys. So, but if you guys can just drop us a subscribe, it'd be amazing. Only takes a second and it's completely free. And you can do so the same for Stanhope's away days as well. And I'm sure Ez will do whatever he's doing singing wise. And I've got that clip somewhere, which I'll probably play to you a little bit later on if you're lucky enough. But so coming back to this question, spoke about it on other streams, but Joe, and I'm going to ask you after as this as well. Toffolo as a backup. 1, do you think he'll do it? And 2, don't you think 2.5 million is really, really cheap? Or do you think it's the right price?
It is low. Again, you're looking at a valuation on a player who's done very well at the championship level. I'm not sure if he's got any kind of experience, but I'd say that is low. I'd take him. Would he be happy to sign on knowing he's pretty much going to be a second string fullback, if that's where he's just commit to playing as a left wing back behind who we've signed on? I don't think so. Would he be willing to try and adapt his game to try and play somewhere else? Would he be looking, maybe I can try and use my skills that I've got as a left wing back to try and go into like a central midfield position, or try and push further forward and go into a winger role? I think it's definitely something that we'd be looking at. And if it was 2.5 million, and that's the actual valuation that we've got on him, I'd be taking him in a heartbeat.
And it is a steal, as I don't know how to say that, but SLRY Gaming rightfully says. I don't know if you have a YouTube channel, but if you want to subscribe to this guy as well, it looks like he's a YouTuber, so give a subscribe to him. Now, Ez, we're approaching the last 15 minutes because, as many of you will know, Door on Tour is also streaming tonight. Now, he FaceTimed me earlier. He FaceTimed me. I was at the pub, actually, and he FaceTimed me, and he must have just got out of bed, right? He looked proper rough. No, I'm joking. But he said to me, he said, you don't ever have to stop before the stream. You know, you can just go over it if you want. But guys, me and Dor, we always speak to each other about this, and it will always work like this, no matter what he says to me. It'll be my stream and then Dor's stream, and we'll always have a couple of minutes for you to jump over. So don't forget, Dor is streaming right after this, and he's going to be talking with Des Oldham about some cool stuff. And he's just been over to Spain to watch the Coventry game. So, yeah, I know he didn't say Cooper out either, so you'll be pleased to know. So that's Des on with Dor on tour this evening. But Ez, I want to ask you the question obviously, as I've just asked Joe, Toffolo, £2.5 million. Do you think he'll play as a depth player or potentially try and, change his positions to try and get in the first team squad? And what do you think about that £2.5 million valuation?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Joe. It's an absolute bargain from that price point of view, and he's somebody that I really do like, and he's very very attack minded, forward thinking, which is almost slightly different to the way thing he is, because we've got we've got to have competition for places. There's nobody guaranteed a start. Even Brennan Johnson's not guaranteed a start. Although he is, we know he is, but you know what I mean. Everybody's going to have to fight for their position, and Omar will. I don't think he's going to be guaranteed to start. I think if Harry Toffolo does come in, he's the more senior player, and he may get the start depending on the game. So I think we've got to have adaptable players who are going to suit different formations and different opponents. We're not going to be able to play the way we played last season. Let's be honest. We're not going to get 3, 4, 5-0 wins. It's not going to happen week in, week out like we were lucky enough to see last season. So we are going to have to play a little bit more conservative on the counter attack some of the times. I think he'll slot in perfectly. I think he'll be part of the kind of the kind of team mentality that Cooper's trying to raise. We're all going to be competitive. We're all going to support each other as well. There's not going to be anybody sulking because they're not getting in. They're going to support the person who's in, and then hope when they get their chance, they're going to take. And we saw that last season. There's no doubt we saw that last season. I've never seen the club and the players so together on and off the pitch. Steve Cooper made it a point that we all celebrate together, when they score goals and things like that. And you could see it, despite rumours of Jed and Brennan falling out, I never saw it. And just on a side point, on Jed Spence and his, any problems that he might have, remember back to what Heckingbottom did to him. He didn't react. And who was the first one to jump in to protect him? It was Brennan Johnson. So I can't see that there was ever any issue between that. But that's just the point to kind of put to bed. But I think Toffolo jump in. I think he'll work well within the setup, and he may actually be the preferred starter. And with Omar Richards having to prove, but they're different types of players from all accounts. Omar Richards is a lot more defensive, and Harry Toffolo is a lot more of an attacking fullback. So built two different types of players playing in the same position, and they will be used as and when Cooper needs them. But I'd have him, and I'd definitely have him at that price. Absolutely.
Well, it's a really good price. And as Nick's just said here, England are beating Norway 4-0. I think that's in the Women's World Cup. So if any of you do want to have a little listen to that on the radio or the TV, that'd be great. England doing very, very well. So yeah, you raised some really good points. As it is a really good price for him, and I think he could step up to the level. But Eamon says here, don't sign him like signing the. I think he'll probably finish off. Oh, it's like signing the Wales team, which won't be smart. Sorry, just cut you off there a little bit. Does anybody know if the Burton game tomorrow is on iFollow? Gents, do you know? It is on iFollow. Liam's your man for that one. So NFFC player watch. I'm sure you'll be enjoying yourself tomorrow. Big game for Forest. We've got Andrew. He says, interesting points tonight, chaps. Thanks for the stream. Keep the faith. Absolutely. We're not done just yet, though, so you don't need to jump ship just yet. We've got another 10 or so minutes until we go. And I can just see Joe. Come on, people are leaving now. God, what's going on? What about Orsic? I don't think there's really much in that. He's 29. And I want it to be one of the last questions. And Joe, I'm going to go to you for this one. At the age of 29, it's not impossible to come into a Forest team. We've seen it with Steve Cook, a little bit older, who's done really well and cemented himself into that team. But do you think it might be a bit of a risk bringing in a 29-year-old that perhaps still has to mould into the team? And not just that, but he hasn't got long to mould into that team. He's just got under 5 weeks. So how are you feeling about that? It's a bit of a gamble as well from that point.
Sorry, who's that about?
That Orsic.
I mean, in a sense, yeah, I would say it's a gamble. I can't say I'm too familiar with everything that he's been doing, but I think if we go off the standpoint of, I'm pretty sure, I mean, someone was likely to correct me, I don't think he's played. Has he played for an English side? Has he played in an English league?
I'm not sure he has. I think Google might be able to help me with that, though.
That's something that he's going to have to adapt to immediately, even if he comes to any side that's over here. Then to change potentially his side of play to get into a team where he's going to have to find a way of integrating in, seeing how everyone else is playing. Yeah, it is a gamble, but again, going back to signing players with more experience, just it is something that we might have to look at doing. Is it something you want to do as one of your players up top? Potentially. So I think it's just one that's going to be one that it's going to come down to what you're getting for and what his wages are going to be. It could be a free hit of an opportunity that we're able to take, in which case I'd say go for it. But if it's a lot of, if it's the big money that we're looking at paying for him, I'd then probably try and think about going somewhere where we've got a bit more knowledge of how well he's going to adapt and fit in.
And he's never played in England. I've just looked at it. He's played in the likes of Japan, Croatia, and Italy as well, but he's never actually played in England. So it looks as though it would be a tough one for him to adjust to, especially when you've got to adjust to Steve Cooper's tactics as well. And I think he wants players that actually know a bit about each other as well. So sell Taylor, use money to get Davis back at the City Ground. Yeah, but I mean, as much as I think, exactly as G. Cullis has said here, how much is Taylor actually worth? Liam, how much do you think that Lyle Taylor is worth? Because it's clear to see, although he did play well in that last game, potentially this could be, the last time that he's at Forest this pre-season. So what would you value him at, honestly?
About $1 million, probably. About $1 million would be fair for him. 1.5 at max.
So based on his performance at Birmingham, do you not think maybe a little bit more, or do you think are you dead set on a 1.5 million as the max?
Yeah, because he's not consistent, is he? Consistency is his biggest downfall. I mean,
Joe said 5 million.
Very good. A very good sale.
I think we're doing a Wolves here, aren't we? We're slowly doing it, but you see, this is it, though, isn't it? Every club does it. There's a player that they don't necessarily want, but they think they could get a decent amount for. And as Joe thinks, 5 million. Mark says no more than 2 million. Forest Dan says 30 million to Wolves. I think that's fair.
We'll do 30 million.
And Morgan Gibbs-White.
Add-ons to Wolves.
Yeah. And we want Morgan Gibbs-White in return.
Deal.
Yeah, that's a really good deal. I would take that, actually. Yeah, let's do that.
I mean, he did score against Derby County. That adds another 2 million on.
And Huddersfield, don't forget.
Yeah.
Don't forget that game where he came out of nowhere.
He scored pre-season against Northampton last year.
That's a big away day, that is, Northampton.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're looking at 10 million now.
We're looking, I think 10. I think you're a bit low there. I'd say 15. But there we go. That's a whole separate debate, isn't it? And we've only got 5 minutes to talk about it. So let's talk a little bit about deadline day signings. I think it's fair to say that Forest will make a couple, if I'm being honest. I'd like to see them put in a bid for James Garner at least, because I would like to see him come back. It's just the price tag that would concern me a little bit. Anything over 10 million, I just think really a little bit too much at this stage. But I don't know how you feel. But Ez, I want to know your thoughts on potential deadline day signings if it were to come to it. I mean, who knows the players that you're going to say could sign in the coming weeks, but it's deadline day. Let's say you've got £10 million left. Who are you signing, or who are you putting in a bid for at least?
Yeah, I think if we haven't got them by then, I think a cheeky bid for James Garner and for Keenan Davis would be where I'd go with us last day. I think that's probably where we'll pick up a couple of bargains, because the valuation for Keenan Davis from Aston Villa is just ridiculous. Based on what? Based on a few good months with us, where he still only scored a few goals. They know how important he was to the way we played, but they're not going to get that money off us for him. So those, I think, will be a couple of players you could possibly pick up late into the transfer market, if not actually on deadline day. And I think that might be the case. And I do believe that we will look at players on deadline day, and there will be a couple coming in. It's just going to be exciting. I don't think the excitement is going to stop for this transfer window until literally about whatever the deadline is, whether it's 11 o'clock or midnight on that transfer day. I think we'll be involved all the way up until then, to be honest.
Well, Liam, what do you think? And by the way, as Joe completely agrees with you on that one, he says Davis and Garner 100%. And it looks like I think most people will say that. Liam, who would you try and bid for, or at least sign on that deadline day? Oh, he's crashed out. I'll ask Joe that question then instead. He's back now. Joe, deadline day. Let's say you got about £10 million. Who are you going to try and sign?
Yeah, I'm going for Garner and Davis. I think no one really is going to go in for Davis, especially at the price that Aston Villa set on him as their evaluation. I think they went in for that trying to get Forest to go in, because nobody else was going to go in for that really. So I think if he's not featuring in their starting games, I think then maybe we've got a chance. And I'd say the same about Garner. I know that they've both gone away with their respective teams on tour. I know Garner's out in Thailand at the moment with the United setup, and they're doing absolutely no business at all, really. So maybe he's in with a sniff of getting a chance, and all it would take is maybe coming on as a substitute for United, and that might be enough to make him think, yeah, I'm going to stay here. But I think those two are definitely our best chances of getting a decent deal, where they know they're going to get solid football starting every game with a team that they know well, and they know that the crowd's going to be behind them and is going to love them for every single game that they play for us in the Premier League.
And I think you could probably get both for under 15 million if you really tried. So potentially,
yeah. If you wait until last day of the transfer window, yeah, you could probably try and chance it. If you have to pay a little bit more, then I'd be happy.
So perhaps maybe they're going to get a couple of midfielders and a backup goalkeeper, and then leave the striker situation to deadline day, and then test the waters with Davis. Maybe it could happen. Who knows? But Liam, we're approaching the last 3 minutes of the stream, so I want to ask you, who would be your potential last-minute deadline day signings, without them potentially being panic buys, if you like?
Davis. He was one of my favourite players last year. He doesn't score goals, like he said, but he brings so much more to the team. Like his work rate's next to none. His hold-up play, he always finds a man off a pass. He doesn't misplace passes. He finds the man, and for a striker to come in, pick the ball up, is what we need. I think Garner's going to come back on a loan. I think Man United is so unsure about him. And he said the other day that how many games he played last season for Forest, that he thinks he's ready for Man United.
Yeah, Liam looks like he's crashed again, unfortunately. I'm not sure.
So, yeah, he had a very good pre-season last year with Man United, didn't he? And he was getting got some good time playing, and there was talk about him breaking in at the start of last season, but it didn't happen for him. But just a quick point about those two players, the benefit of them is they're going to slot straight in, aren't they? We know we're going to slot straight in. We can kind of gamble with that, let them get their fitness and pre-season at their clubs, and they're going to take the least amount of time to slot into the system and the setup. So yeah, you kind of can gamble to the very end for those two players, I think.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And Ryan's just said, yeah, we can't have Garner back on loan, so it would have to be a bid. So it's going to be difficult. I don't see us getting Garner. I think Davis we can. I think that Aston Villa would be happy to let him go for me, really. Lee Miles says, though, a bit of an out of kind of what we thought about Davis and Calvert-Lewin. I think we wouldn't be able to get Calvert-Lewin, I don't think. I think that'd be too much. And if you were going to have a Wani and Johnson up front, like I suspect, maybe in like a 3-5-2 or whatever, a 5-3-2, you can't really have Calvert-Lewin and Awani and Brennan Johnson, because who are you going to take off you know, and sit on the bench. You just can't have it. That's why I'm saying players like Larson might be a better option, because, you know, they've not played in England before. They're fairly reputable, but they're nothing really, really special, but they'll do a job. So, you know, and, you know, I think it was maybe Max Goodwin. I think he mentioned that maybe Xande Silva could still do that given time, but I think that's a different debate. I know, Liam, you don't look particularly sure about that one. But, guys, it's been great speaking to you all, first of all. I just want to thank you all for joining. I know that Lee didn't join, unfortunately, tonight, but he'll be coming on the next one. We might be doing one tomorrow night. Should we sign another 9 players whilst I'm working, probably at some point. But we will be back very soon. So I want to just say as well, I really appreciate you guys asking me how I was, everybody that's watching the stream as well. Yesterday I was fine, just a few things going on, and I just needed some time away from everything. So it was just nice to have the day away, to be completely honest, which is no offense to you guys, but I love doing this, but I just needed a bit of time away from it. But listen, your support makes it all worthwhile. Even you guys on the panel, you know, I love talking to you, and you're all really nice, and you're always supporting me as well. So please, if you can, most importantly, subscribe to Liam, because I know he's working really hard, and although he's been inconsistent, as he says, he does love it really, and he's just busy with work and family things. So
I am going to upload one tonight, I think. So
remember, don't rush it.
2 new signings from the last 2 days. So
do it, my friend, but don't ever rush it. Make sure it's good quality. People will love that. So listen, subscribe to Stand Up's Away Days if you can. Also subscribe to me if you can as well, because we're so close to that 700, and it would just be great if we could hit it at some point. There's 662 of you subscribed, so why not go for 670 by tomorrow night?
I'm 18 away from 350, so that's just my next little goal. So
come on, guys, and this isn't a little goal, because Liam, this is on a creator's journey in YouTube. That is a massive deal. And I'm sure that when you were at 0 subscribers, or maybe 2 subscribers, you thought, how on earth am I ever going to get there? Yeah. You're just climbing the mountain, my friend. So as Door on Tour says, you Reds, and just talking about Door on Tour, he is streaming in 9 minutes time. So head over to Door on Tour's channel, make sure you get ready for him, and he's going to have Des Oldham talking to him a little bit about Forest and his tour in Spain. So come on, you Reds. Smile, everyone, says James. Don't worry, we're happy. It's just so warm in my room, and I've had to shut my window because of how loud things are outside. So I'm roasting. I've drank, as you can see, 2 litres of water there, as you've seen me drinking throughout the video. So yeah, thank you all very much for joining. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you all very soon. Make sure you jump onto Door and Tour stream now. So cheers, guys.